Ave Maris Stella.
Hello and welcome back to Vatican II in a Year. This is your host, Father Matthew Schneider. I am a priest of the Church of Christ, and I am a theology professor. This is a podcast on the StarQuest Production Network at sqpn.com. Today we're on day 43. We're covering Inter Mirifica 13 to 14 on the importance of Catholic media. This is moving on to chapter 2 of this document. This document only has 2 chapters, Inter Mirifica on the media, and chapter 2 is on the pastoral activity of the Church. As we noted in our discussion with Sister Hosea, that this is the more practical of the 2 chapters, so it is going to get a little bit more into the practical of how the Church uses media. If you want to follow along, we have a reading plan and more details at sqpn.com/Vatican and frmatthewlc.com/Vatican. Yesterday, we were talking about morals for those who produce and authorities that regulate media. Today, we're talking about how all in the Church must use the media well, and the need for a Catholic press, not just Catholics in the press, in the general press, in the public thing, but also a specifically Catholic press. So let's look at these 2 numbers. So we're going to start with paragraph 13, which is on the need to help the Church use media well. Let's read it. All the children of the Church should join, without delay and with the greatest effort in common work, to make effective use of the media of social communication in various apostolic endeavors and circumstances and conditions demand. They should anticipate harmful developments, especially in regions where more urgent past efforts to advance morality and religion are needed. Pastors' exhortation, therefore, to fulfill their duty in this respect, one which is intimately linked with their ordinary preaching responsibility. The laity, too, have something to do with the use of these media, should endeavor to bear witness to Christ. First of all, by carrying out their individual duties or office expertly and with apostolic spirit, and further, by being of direct help in the pastoral activity of the Church to the best of their ability through technical, economic, cultural, and artistic talents. So as we analyze this, as we give a little summary, we're going to go backwards, right? So the last part of this one is really about, hey, the Church needs all of us to use the media to bear witness to Christ, and everybody can help, right? It's talking about the laity at the end there and how they are often the ones who know the technical things, right? And all the expertise, their technical, economic, cultural, and artistic talents. Now, some of us who are clergy, who are religious, know some of this, right? I don't think my own knowledge of the technology of social media and the things I've learned to do this podcast are nothing. I'm by no means like a super expert in, audio recording and things like that. And I'm sure somebody's pointing out when I'm wrong, but there's a certain expertise there, right? You see Bishop Robert Reed, who's in charge of Catholic TV, similar type thing. They know a bit, but those technical aspects, a lot of times the cultural and artistic ones, lay people often have a better role, but also pastors have this role, right? And it mentions this is an extension of preaching, right? This is an extension of our role as preachers. The Vatican documents elsewhere in the Church, they talk about 3 roles of the priest, which is the teaching role, preaching like that, the sanctifying role, the sacraments, and then the ruling role, which is also here because it's talking about the institutional Church and the pastors. Although part of our job is to preach, part of our job for a lot of pastors is to be a lot of priests is to be the pastor or to be the bishop or things like that. I am in a kind of unique role in that I teach at a seminary, so I spend much more time on the teaching aspect and much less on the ruling aspect, but as a priest, I still have all of that. Now, that's what we have. Now, it needs to foresee directions media and our morality might move, right? So the Church needs to look at that, right? We see a lot of books, well, not maybe a lot, but a decent number of books in Catholic circles that are addressing issues of media or issues that are brought out in the media, right? So you have books on quitting pornography. There's a number of books and different things on quitting pornography because the media of pornography is being very detrimental in the Church. And then also there's a lot of other books on sexual perversion and, all the different things more generally. And we also have this idea of misinformation, right? So it really pains me when people who present themselves as super Orthodox Catholics or who present, or you go into a Catholic discussion and the information that's being presented is just scientifically wrong. It's inaccurate. Or it's just factually accurate about what some politician believes or things like that. That's not good. Right? And that's something we have to react to as Catholics about the truth that there is a truth of reality, right? Not just it's everyone's opinion. People's opinions are valuable. They can be helpful, but there is a truth of reality, right? You know, the tree outside my window, its leaves are green. If you say its leaves are purple, you do not have grasp of reality. So, and this is usually apostolate by all, right? Social media brings this down really to everybody so that everybody has a responsibility. You know, even if you're not super into it, you probably post pictures, and what are you posting pictures of, like the baptism of your nephew or niece, or are you posting pictures about, you know, some movie that's really inappropriate and really going down? And it's interesting here, they say it starts out all the children of the church, right? Not just the tech savvy, not just the media savvy, but we all need to contribute to this. All of us have this responsibility. So paragraph 14 is talking about the need for a Catholic press, right? There's two parts, and we're going to read each of the parts separate. The first one is more general, and the second one is more specific means that we need Catholic media in. So let's read part 1. First, a good press should be fostered to instill a fully Christian spirit into readers. A truly Catholic press should be set up and encouraged. Such a press, whether immediately fostered and directed by ecclesial authorities or by Catholic laymen, should be edited with the clear purpose of forming, supporting, and advocating public opinion in accordance with natural law and Catholic teaching and precepts. It should disseminate and properly explain news concerning the life of the Church. Moreover, the faithful ought to be advised of the necessity both to spread and read the Catholic press to formulate Christian judgments for themselves on all events. So, pretty straightforward, right? This isn't something optional. We sometimes think, oh, we have our parish, maybe we have the diocese, but then all these other ministries are optional. No, that's not how the Church considers those type of things, right? It is not thinking about, it is not just, hey, we're just this parish. No, this is the kind of navel-gazing that Pope Francis has sometimes criticized certain people in the Church for doing. No, the Church is missionary. The Church is going out, and part of that going out has to be media. And this media needs donations to survive, right? Crooks originally tried the ad-supported Catholic news. It didn't really succeed. It was the best attempts I know of trying to do a media in the Catholic sphere that is just supported by ads or subscriptions and doesn't receive any donations. Well, some, I guess, if the subscriptions are super high, maybe some specific ones, but most of them require donations. I rely on donations. SQPN, StarQuest relies on donations. So do our Sunday Visitor, Catholic News Agency, EWTN, Catholic TV. Most of the Catholic media you can think about require donations to keep going. And we need to instill Christian virtues through media, right? There are stories of virtue and apostolate, right? So those are the types of theories we need to share on Catholic media, not just the kind of gossip of who's going to be the next bishop here or there. Now, it's not to say that you can't see that, but the stories of great apostolate, great virtue. So one of the things that is not super public, but I've never really hidden, is for a while, part of my ministry was writing all the news stories for the Regnum Christi site. The Legions of Christ, my religious community, is part of the Regnum Christi spiritual family, the Regnum Christi Federation. And on our website, we would have stories of, they ran this new great retreat. This person was transformed by this thing, this, that. And the idea was to give ideas for different apostolates, to encourage people who were involved, and to give ideas for apostolates that might have worked in one city that you look at and you say, maybe that'll work in my city too, or things like that, right? And those are the kind of things that I think oftentimes are missing, where we just get all into this church politics and things. And the idea here is promoting public opinion towards virtue. As a little note here, it talks about natural law and Catholic teaching and precepts. Natural law is what we can understand by reason, right? So we can understand that abortion is wrong without invoking faith, because we understand that a human being is a human being from conception, and you don't need faith to understand that. And therefore, killing innocent human beings is wrong and abortion is wrong. And whereas Catholic precepts are more specific to the church, right? For example, we should make sure that people have the opportunity to get off on Sunday to go to church. Now, that's more a specific Catholic thing, right? It's not that just without revelation, just reason alone, we can discover that, right? We can discover something is proper to worship God sometime, but Sunday is kind of determined by revelation by the church. Well, revelation, tradition, scripture tradition, and then the church regulates exactly that. What is your Sunday obligation and things like that, right? And then there needs to share about news about the church, right? New saints, what's happening latest with the Pope, how are the bishops responding to some new law or things like that. And those are important. And Catholics have a duty to check it out. We shouldn't just be like, oh, I'm just reading NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, Fox News, Breitbart, whatever other kind of news you're reading. I'm just the New York Times, etc., right? All these different media outlets that are big and secular, and they're not all, like, not everything they say is bad, but as Catholics, to understand it, we have a duty to look at the Catholic media, the Catholic press, and not just the secular. So let's read the second part of this number 14, and it's really going to talk to us about movies and then radio and television and then drama. This is kind of 3 mini paragraphs inside this paragraph in the text, and each one is kind of unique, but they'll all kind of go together. So let's read it. The production and showing of films that have value as decent entertainment, humane culture, art, especially when they are designed for young people, ought to be encouraged and assured by very effective means. This can be done particularly by supporting and joining in projects and enterprises for the production and distribution of decent films, by encouraging worthwhile films through the critical approval and awards, by patronizing or jointly sponsoring theaters operated by Catholics and responsible managers. Next part. Similarly, effective support should be given to the good radio and television programs, above all, those that are suitable for families. Catholic programs should be promoted in which listeners and viewers can be brought to share in the life of the Church and learn religious truths. An effort should also be made where it may be necessary to set up Catholic stations. In such instance, however, care must be taken that the programs are outstanding for their standards of excellence and achievement. Next part. In addition, there should be an effort to see the noble and ancient art of drama, which now is diffused everywhere by the media of social communications, serves the culture and moral betterment of the audiences, right? So that's the section. Now, I think if this was written today versus in the 1960s, certain things would be different, right? It talks about movies, TV, and radio as the main forms. Today it might be TikTok, X and Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, streaming, right? Might not use Netflix by name. It might say streaming because that's how the Vatican tends to talk about things. And I think there's a value in that because it's all different streaming platforms. Netflix is just the most famous, but you also have a bunch of others like Amazon Prime, HBO, Disney Plus, Hulu. I don't keep track. I really, I am not one to watch a whole lot of that. So, making movies and others requires a mind of art, right? It's not, there is an aspect of theology that you have your theology, your philosophy, your ethics, right? And there's an aspect of practicality that you can, record the sound so everybody can understand, things like that, right? So all those things are there. And then, this is not my forte. I am, I watch a single digit number of movies a year and basically no scripted television. I do watch a decent amount of interesting documentaries, historical, scientific stuff like that, but I'm not really one who enjoys watching a lot of fictional stuff on the media. Just personal taste, nothing against those who do. And so this isn't my forte, this kind of artistic aspect, right? And we can show virtue in entertaining ways. There are ways that, you look at it and you're like, wow, that's virtuous, right? And that shows in an entertaining way. I'm actually encouraged by that. And then, there's a collaboration working together is important. We need to support each other on these things. And there's a need for support for TV and support for good families, right? And so that idea of, both Catholic and general virtue, Catholic stations are good. We need excellence in virtue and excellence in production. We shouldn't just be like, hey, this is like the worst production ever, but it's excellence in virtue, right? No, it should have both. And then it talks about drama in that last part in that recommitment to artistic expression by the Church. So that concludes today. Thank you for listening to this episode of Vatican II in a Year. This is a listener-supported podcast. You can donate to help StarQuest produce another great podcast at sqpn.com/give. You can give one-time, monthly, or join the StarQuest Patreon. Tomorrow we're going to continue on the next paragraphs of Inter Mirifica, which is paragraphs 15 to 18 on the apostolate of media. Please join us then to learn more about Vatican II, which will provide a blueprint for the Catholic Church. If you want more information like playlists and a reading plan, go to sqpn.com/Vatican, frmatthewlc.com/Vatican, or Vatican SQPN on Facebook or X. Amen.